literal garbage. Let's see. Let me pull up the schedule real quick. As I mean, if you've watched this, we just can't spark anything up. But here's this. I finally pull up the stats, the schedule, and I'll try to get some context to this. So, of course, first game Washington, a complete mirage of a win, but we did win, albeit only scoring 21 points after scoring I think like was like 14 in the first quarter or 10 something like that. Then we fumbled. It stood on his dick fingers. Against LSU, 21 points. Could have scored a lot more. I think Gus literally just like stopped playing offense in the fourth quarter. Execution with the dog crap, to quote our great head coach. And it was putrid. Auburn versus Arkansas, another snoozer. He scored 34 points, but I believe I want to say 17 came off of special teams and defense. It was something crazy like that. Like it was either it was 17 came off or like they were pretty much set up by the special teams and the defense. I know he scored at least one return off of special teams. It was something like that, something morbidly disgusting. We could continue. Only scored 24 against Southern Miss. The season's over at that point. I mean, we could have still made the playoffs, I guess, but somehow we went up from that game, even though we shouldn't have, from 10 to 8. But this was the kicker. We scored 9 points to Mississippi State. Darius Slayton, I believe, dropped a touchdown pass. Stidham, no, I think Stidham overthrew Slayton for a touchdown pass, and someone else dropped a touchdown pass. And yeah, we were god off on that game and sucked. Dropped 13 spots after losing that game. 13. I guess people were ready to get us out of there. And then in Tennessee, we scored 24 points, and one of them was the last second. One of them was the last second touchdown. That basically didn't matter. Scored a measly 31 against the Ole Miss team that gave up like 40 to Southern Illinois. Somehow beat Texas A&M. Scored 28. We have 14 points for I believe 3.5 quarters, and didn't deserve to have 28 if A&M didn't literally give us a win. The shame, damn shame for A&M because they could have probably like maybe made it to the playoffs if they playoffs. They could have at least had a decent season. They could have finished like second in the SEC. They didn't give us this ridiculous win we didn't deserve. Against Georgia, 10 points, and we didn't score after the first quarter, I believe. And Liberty scored 53. That wasn't a real game; it's a real team. And Alabama, we scored against Alabama. We had 14 in the first quarter, first half. Um, had the chance to score before halftime. I mean, Anders Carlson was trash, to be honest with you. But but Anders Carlson could probably hit within 45 yards. I think we only need like 30 yards to get within that 45-yard range. The offense wasn't clicking by any means, but they weren't that bad. They could at least got that much. And unfortunately, we just took the pedal off. I guess a little bit further than just schedule stats, because I mean, you could look at those yourself if you wanted to. If you watch this team, they had no identity whatsoever in terms of what they want to do with the running game, other than just force it like a blunt object into a round uh, set stall. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it was morbid to see them try to run the ball. Creativity was at a complete lack. If it wasn't Whitlow breaking 5 tackles to gain 11 yards, then it was probably a failure of a run. Cam Martin was not used smart at all, in my opinion. Pretty much, if you knew he was in, he's going to run the speed sweep. Even though I feel like he was more of an elusive inside type of guy, and not just a speed sweep. Rock Thomas, Terry McKillop guy. But Gus is smarter than me. He's not. And I mean, they did some creative things to try to make it work. Like Sean Shivers, whenever he was in, usually he would run the speed sweeps, but you could run like inside outside with him comfortably. He had good vision. Gus didn't trust him to run the ball though, so it really didn't matter. Let me see who else was on here. Anthony Schwartz, he was a very good double reverse guy. But the problem is with double reverses is if you only give well, hey, if you don't run like a traditional like normal reverse, you only run double reverses, then they're never gonna go for the first one, which they never did as like the first game maybe. Georgia and Alabama ate that up almost every time, and it was never there. I think A&M didn't let it happen either. Um, After the first couple games, it basically wasn't there. But Malik Miller filled in when I think Whitlow got hurt and Cam like wasn't getting touched for whatever reason. And Malik did pretty admirable against I think against Ole Miss, I want to say. I didn't see the field again for like the last 2 or 3 games, which I mean, why even play for Gus? Asa Martin, I think he only saw the game for who's Liberty, I think Liberty, I want to say. He got random touches that were all very bad and stupidly used. I think he got used in 5 games. I don't think he's eligible to be a red shirt. Someone could correct me on that, but the pinnacle of failure for this team, the passing game, I feel like the okay. So here's how you would section that off. You would think about what did the receiving routes look like, and I would say they looked almost identical to last year's, with marginal more slants and marginal more crossing routes. Marginal. How would the receivers perform? I would say they performed almost completely wholeheartedly worse than they did last year. It seemed like, and here's how I would say that Ryan Davis is only used for slants pretty much. Um, I don't know what else he like. I don't remember him doing anything other than that. I'm really trying to like think about what else Ryan Davis did this year other than slants. Not slant screens. And I can't. He may have been using a couple crossing routes, but like those were abandoned as soon as they worked. Darius Slayton was horrible. No offense to Darius Slayton, but he was. Other than like that last like A&M fourth quarter, that man was. Oh, geez, he's here another year, isn't he? Seth Williams, best receiver we had this year by not even like close, honestly. Anthony Schwartz, a godsend receiver. If he was used as a receiver, not just as a screen guy. Not he may have used a couple screens, but like mainly he was used for like I keep on getting my words confused. Slants. He was using a couple of slants, but I thought he did good on a couple crossing routes, but he wasn't used properly in that role. And he wasn't using enough deep passes for one. He could burn anybody. When he did get deep passes, it'd be overthrown or underthrown because the quarterback is no touch. And he's mainly used for screens and double reverses, as I said. It would have been nice if they used him for wheel routes off of a reverse pass. That would have been smart, I feel like. They may have used him once or twice in that capacity, but it wasn't nearly enough because you would think after so many double reverses, you kind of need the offensive line to block for that, and they didn't block very well. Honestly, I might just section this to offense video and do a defense video later. So we have, you can just go down the list at that point. No other receivers really use adequate. Like you look at the stats, almost all the receiving, like pretty much 80%, which is the 4 names I just mentioned, if not more than 80%. And the rest of it was Malik Miller was using, I'm trying not to curse, stupid like screens and stuff like that. Like he'd be used for screens. Him and Booby basically the same amount of like receiving like catches. They both be used for screens, but Sean Shires, one of the fastest people in football, wouldn't be used for any screens. Like Sean Shires, I'm looking at this right now. He doesn't have one registered catch on the entire reception chart. Now I'm pretty sure he's caught one, but the fact he doesn't have like at least 20 is indicative of how awful Gus is. Even Cam Martin got 10 catches, who was basically used as a slower Sean Shivers. Ugh. Sean Stryker, the tight end after Jalen Harris left. Sal Cannell was used as a receiving option quite often this year, which I thought was something we needed to come into the season. But I don't know. Still didn't have a lot of touch in those red zone areas after the first game, so it kind of just faded away after that. Um, yeah, we could keep on going, but it's not much else to talk about. Oh wait, my third section, I forgot to get to it. Third section was how the quarterback performed. Would he be better than last year, which they needed to be, or would he be worse? And he was horrible. 60.1%, 13 touchdowns to 15 picks, 15 picks, yeah, under 28 rating, 6.96 yards per attempt. Now, so here's what I meant to say here. When you look at Stidham's performance throwing the ball, he gave you 7 yards per attempt. He gave you a 13-5 ratio, both being completely worse than he did. About a yard and a half worse than last year, and about I don't know how many. He wasn't like a touchdown god last year, but he had a healthy, I think 22, 23 kind of passing touchdowns off the top of my head. But the completion rating was I think 9 points difference, and he had 3,000 yards thrown. So pretty much he went down in every possible category. He needed to do more. Is it just his fault? No. The game planning uh, gave him a bunch of pretty much the same thing he was getting when Carrion was out last year. A bunch of deep throws that were aimless, and a bunch of sideline throws which were aimless. But his ability to hit those throws, I don't know if it's because the offensive line was so much worse that he just possibly never felt comfortable. I actually know that's why. I actually know that, but I'm gonna act like I don't. Uh, it's just he never looked good throwing the ball as far as touch goes. Countless missed deep throws that were open, even countless missed short throws like screens he couldn't hit, crossing routes he couldn't hit, slants he couldn't hit. When we would call intermediate throws, he like Gus doesn't trust the middle inherently, right? He never has at Auburn. But he like even as much as he doesn't trust it, I think Stem trusts it even less than he does. Like it's like he legitimately just like I don't know if he just wants to avoid throwing like bad plays, but he doesn't throw over the middle. And he doesn't look good when he tries to. He did decently last year. Like I remember he had a couple of 10-yard posts and hitches to Will Hastings, who I guess was his most comfortable receiving and threat that never played this year, stuff the LSU game. And he hit Ryan Davis pretty often that fashion. Ryan Davis wasn't used that much for intermediate routes this year, so I guess it kind of adds up. Um, Them just looked bad the whole year. Not much poise, and I think I'm ready for him to go. It looks like he's reached his like kind of pinnacle as far as development here. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just don't think he's like in this offense will ever be good or better than he's shown to be. And yeah, I mean we could maybe another offense he could be better, but I just don't see it in this one. And I guess I'll try to touch on the coach so I can stop rambling and wrap this video up. Maybe come to a defensive and special teams video later. Make something better out of it. Give a better format. And yeah, this coaching. Yeah, uh, let's see. How would I describe the coaching? Fireable would be my way to describe that. If you had to go game by game, let me pull the schedule again. I think I could, off the top of my dome, give a pretty good, adequate way to describe the coaching on offense. Washington, horrible outside the first quarter. Pretty much continuation of all the previous games where it just be like you come through the scripted drives the first two or three drives, and then those are great, and then after that it's just awful. And if it wasn't for a fourth quarter series of like just miracle plays, and Stidham's only good game for the entire season, probably would have lost. Alabama State, that's not even a real game. LSU, I give it a D, I guess, because a lot of that was kind of execution. They did do enough to get the running game going, but this probably Stidham's first of many trash games. Although I do have to give it, like the coaching was off in the fourth quarter and gave just completely went off the pedal completely, and that's why unless you had a chance to come back. I know that it was rigged. I understand that, but even with it being rigged, you can't rig a game. There's not time left, and they just move the ball, run the ball maybe instead of throwing it, and, like asking for pass interferences. Maybe it's different. Arkansas horrible. Southern Miss horrible. Mississippi State, that's a tough one because Stidham looked really bad. The offensive line couldn't even block anybody for any period of time. But I feel like he could use the running game a little bit better and maybe use screens a little bit better in that game. I'd give it a D, the D minus maybe. Tennessee game, it's hard for me to keep on like decrying the, the staff because a lot of these are just bad execution type of games. But it's on the coaches to put people that can play better in those positions. So I give him an F. Stem shouldn't have been in this game after like the first quarter, but he still it was. Um, he had like empty like stat pad like he has a lot of yards in this game, but he wasn't good. The running game was um I'll give it a D minus. Ole Miss a C I guess maybe a C minus. A&M until the fourth quarter I'd probably give it an F minus or maybe a G. This last two quarters probably a B minus. So I guess that would average out to like a D minus. Um, I give it a D. Georgia, an F minus possibly. Stidham shouldn't have been in this game either. Stidham was really bad, and I don't know why he's in this game at any point after the first quarter. You can really describe any Auburn game, watch them, and after the first quarter, but I chose to be a little bit more difficult. Liberty, leading rush at 116 yards, leading passer at 178 yards. Liberty is not even a D1 team, I believe. No, we couldn't even get more than like we couldn't get 700 yards of offense against this team. So probably an H, yeah, probably an H. Alabama, uh, that's tough. Gus came to play in that game the first half, and I'll give him that. I'll give him all the credit. He did some good things. He should have used Cam Martin a little bit more. He should have used Booby a little bit more. His rotation of the running backs was stupid. Sean Shivers opened the game up early, didn't get played again. The receivers were legitimately some of the worst I've ever seen receivers play. Um, Gus coached the fourth quarter to not get blown out by 40, so probably an I, an I minus if possible. So yeah, I guess the coaching grade probably an F I would say for the season. Pretty bad. Chip Lindsey should be fired after Gus. I'd keep Chip Lindsey for the bowl game and fire Gus. He won't be fired, but I'd fire Gus right now. After the Tennessee game, after the Georgia game, after Alabama game, I would have fired him. But I definitely fire him now. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was